It's Sunday, so I'm back in Jerusalem again, and behind me is an ancient monastery, which I would know more information about if I stopped to read the little blue sign. But sometimes the history is too much to keep up with. I'll try and read it on the way back. But I did want to pop on, as long as I have a little bit of time, and talk about something that comes up a lot, but specifically it came up this morning when I was doing a consultation for someone, which is that people sometimes see this mismatch between what they read online, especially about the year of the dog or the tiger or the rat or whatever, and how they see themselves. And they're like some things that really click and some things that don't make sense. And so the two things I want to say about that, first of all, is if you're reading something generally written online, and including with like things I do, we're probably talking more about stuff that's going to get attention, maybe clickbaity things, stuff that's going to make you feel good. And it's not going to go in depth like doing a one-on-one reading. It's also not going to go into your specific mix of energies, because the animal associated with the year represents one specific cycle of energy. It interacts with all the other cycles in different ways. And so just reading that you're a tiger, that's splitting, people into 12 different types. And, there's more than 12 different types of people. When I do a personalized reading, I look at a lower resolution than the whole year. And so I tend to split people into 120 different types, which obviously still doesn't cover all of the uniqueness of the human personality, but it gets you a lot closer than just a whole year. Anyway, so people read something and they feel like some of it really describes them, some of it doesn't, and part of that is just the inaccuracy, the lack of specificity of looking at something generalized. Some of it might be, the quality of whose work you're watching or reading as well. But another part of it is that specifically the animal, so when we talk about the year of the tiger, year of the dragon, whatever, it describes how you interact with other people. And so that's often something that it's a lot easier to see in others than in ourselves. So I know a lot of people really connect more to their stem energy than their branch energy, which is the animal. Because the stem energy describes like what our drives are, what we feel like we need to do in this world, what we were put here to do. And the branch energy describes how we interact with other people. So that's something that other people see a lot more of. And I remember, for example, the very first class I ever had when we were talking about the 5 elements and their associated personality types, behaviors, drives, whatever. Everyone was, listening. Okay, we're talking about the earth. These are the I forgot how you say ma'afianim in English. These are the it's not the right word, but diagnostic criteria of an earth person. And you could see how people were like looking at others in the room like, oh yeah, he's an earth person, she's an earth person. And then they would hear something about themselves and they would be like, oh yeah, that's me, that one's me. And it didn't always match up. And for me specifically, like when they got to metal, everyone looked at me and they were like, oh, Hava's metal, that explains so much. And I was like, I'm not metal. Like, where is the metal coming? Like, I can see like 1 or 2 things, but I am not metal. Everyone thought I was metal. And then they got to the water, and I was like, yeah, water is me. I am so water. I'm 100% water. And other people were like, really, water? But the metal is one of the energies. It's the main energy that's represented by the tiger. The animals represent different combinations of energies. None of the 12 animals is exactly one energy. But the tiger represents main energy metal. And that is evidently what my classmates saw more of when they were interacting with me. Whereas my stem energy, again, it's a different combination, but one of the major factors there is water. And that was what I saw in myself and what I experienced in myself, because my water has a tendency to overwhelm all of the other energies. It's just the inherent imbalance in the system that we each have. And in my case, water has a tendency to rise up and drown everything else out. So water was my experience. Other people's experience of me was more of this metal, this tiger energy. And I think that's true in a lot of cases, that there's things that we see in ourselves but not in others, or we see in others but not in ourselves. And I remember I did a reading once for someone, and he was like, okay, but he was a friend of mine. He's like, you know me. This doesn't necessarily prove anything. You could have just extrapolated all this based on like knowing me as a person. So he's like, I'll give you a different test. I'll give you my wife's date of birth. So he gave me his wife's date of birth. I did his wife's chart, gave it to him. He was like, okay, yeah, this seems mostly reasonably accurate. He went home. He came back a couple days later. He was like, so when I said it was mostly accurate, like, I know my wife. I know her pretty well. I've known her for a long time. And like, I saw that what you wrote was, it matched a lot of my experience of her. So I was like, okay, so I give you mostly accurate. I went home and talked to my wife, and it turns out that I don't know my wife as well as I thought I did. And actually what you wrote was completely accurate. So, there's just things that are easier to see from the inside, things that are easier to see from the outside. And sometimes, our internal experience doesn't match other people's experience of us. And that's one of the reasons that I switched to using birth dates rather than giving everyone personality questionnaires in order to understand them. Because with the best will in the world, we're not objective observers of our own lives and our own personalities. So that was long enough for today. My aim each time is like to pop on here and give you 1 minute, which is supposed to be like a good length of time for an Instagram video, and to express a concise, coherent thought. And here is my water, just spreading everywhere and sharing all of the wisdom. So I'm working on that. In the meantime, have a great day, have a great week. I hope that you're enjoying the weather where you are. It's so much nicer day than it's been. And I will see you tomorrow. Take care.